Hello, pre-algebra. Mr. Lawrence here with your flip lesson for February 13th. It's a Monday, and today we're going to be learning how to calculate area of parallelograms and trapezoids. Let's review really quick. We already know that we can use these formulas. Area for a rectangle is base times height. The area for a square is also base times height. The area for a triangle is base times height, and then you have to divide it by 2 because a triangle is only half a square or a rectangle. You remember that, Amanda? Very good. All right, and then don't forget area is the space inside a 2D shape. Now, Mr. Lawrence doesn't like to remember a whole bunch of formulas. I like to use base times height for as many polygons as I can, and I can do it for many quadrilaterals and triangles. Remember that the base and height always come together at a right angle. I can hear Kareem saying in the one example, 8th period, we don't have enough information to solve this. And he's right, because I hadn't given you a right angle for height. Okay, now, see this parallelogram? Let's pretend its dimensions are as such. Let's make it 20 inches. And we'll make this side here, say, 5 inches. Okay. Now the perimeter is really easy. I just take a walk around my parallelogram, and I could walk, 5 inches, and now I've walked 25 inches. I've walked another 5, I'm up to 30, and then another 5 would be 50, 20 would be 50. So my perimeter of the parallelogram would be 50 inches. But to do the area, we can't just go ahead and multiply 5 times 20. In fact, that won't work. Let me get rid of this. Get it out of my way. And an interesting thing happens if I cut my parallelogram along its height. Notice there's a right angle right here. Okay. And if I take this piece off, I just cut it away, and I put it on the other side. Now, I've got to move that 5 because that 5 is dangerous. Okay. And I put it there. What did I just make? I just made a rectangle. Okay. So if I knew the rectangle space was 20 and I knew how tall it was, well, then I could just multiply base times height. So what I'm trying to show you is that a parallelogram is a rectangle in disguise. Let's look at that again. Okay, if I put that over there, there's my parallelogram. See it? I cut it along that height. I pick it up and I move it over there. Boom! I have a rectangle. So in other words, all I need to know is this number here. And if I know x, well, then I can multiply the base times the height, and I'll have the area of a parallelogram, because a parallelogram is just a rectangle in disguise. Well, I'm going to tell you that this is 4 inches. So the area of a parallelogram would be the base, 20 inches, times the height, 4 inches. And 4 times 20 is 80, and inches times inches is inches squared. And there we go. So what we just learned is that the area of a parallelogram can be found by multiplying the base times the height. And again, you have to be careful because the base and height have to make a right angle. Notice that in my area formula, I did not use the 5. I used it in my perimeter, but not in the area. All right. Tell you what, do me a favor. You test this one out. Let me give you a parallelogram. Okay. And I need you to figure out, let's see, we'll call that 5 centimeters. And we'll call that 13 centimeters. See if you can figure out the area of that parallelogram. All right. Well, if you're thinking the answer is 65, you haven't been it hasn't been registering what I'm saying. Do you see a right angle in this shape? No, I don't either. To be able to do this problem, you need a right angle. For example, there would be a right angle. You need to know that distance. If you knew that distance, you'd be able to figure out the area of this parallelogram. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll make it up. We'll make it 11 centimeters. Okay. Well, now that I know the base is 5 centimeters, the height is 11. The area of this parallelogram would equal 11 centimeters times 5 centimeters, which is 55 centimeters squared. Okay. Notice I didn't use the 13 for area. I'd use it in the perimeter because, as Private Jason White would tell you, I walk the perimeters to go all the way around. I've just walked 5, then I walked 13 more, so I'm now 18. And let me do that in a different color. I've just walked 5. Now I've walked 13 more, I'm up to 18. 5 more would give me 23, and then 13 more would give me 36 centimeters. All right, a cool thing happens also when you do trapezoids. Let's say we have, this is 10 inches, and we'll make this 14 inches. Okay, and we're worrying about area here. So I'm going to tell you that this here is 20 inches, and that's going to be the height. Now, we can't just multiply base times height because it sure looks like there are two heights. And in a sense there are, excuse me, two bases. If you notice, if I take this piece off of here, and let me flip it and spin it, and look at that, I make a perfect rectangle again. But I don't know if you realize this, the dimensions have changed. These are no longer 14 and 10. These aren't the same. I don't know if you can tell, but this piece here, oops, wrong one, excuse me. This piece right here used to be here, right? It got cut off of that end and added on up there, right? You see it? Now, you may not realize this, but what actually just happened to the bases is they got averaged. So to find the area of a trapezoid, you average the bases. You add the two bases together, base 1 and base 2, and divide by 2. And then you multiply by the height. And you believe it or not, that's the same exact formula as base times height. I just have two different bases, so I have to average. I don't have to average in a rectangle or a square because the bases are all the same. Okay, so I'm going to take 10 plus 14, and I'm going to divide by 2, and then I'll multiply by the height of the trapezoid. All right, well, 10 plus 14 is 24. Divide by 2 times 20. 12 times 20, 240. And I multiply inches times inches and get inches squared. So we know that for perimeter, you just add up all the sides. But we know the area of a square, base times height. We know the area of a rectangle, base times height. We know the area of a parallelogram. Do the base times the height. We know the area of a triangle. Base times height and divide by 2. The area of a trapezoid, you have to average the bases and then multiply by the heights. Real simple stuff. All right, we're going to get some practice with this in class tomorrow. Mr. Lawrence signing off. Have a good night, everybody.